Welcome to another episode of the CarryTrainer Higher Line podcast. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Higher Line podcast. Every time I say that, and every time that I say it, I say what I'm about to say. And it sounds stupid because I automatically, without thinking, go into like a weird, like, radio voice, like, hey there. Hey. Yeah. We got a good episode today. Our friend JW. I don't know,
brother.
Am I allowed to say your last name?
Yes, you are.
JW Price, which kind of sounds like an old-timey like movie star or something.
It does. It kind of has that ring to it from like the 1800s or something. Like should be working in a saloon.
JW Price. Yeah, like I take my glove off and whack you.
Right.
I appreciate you coming up.
Absolutely. Glad to be here. It's fun.
You have your hat and shirt on from Ethos Tactical.
Yes, Ethos Tactical LLC. That's our company.
Character, honor, and integrity.
Yep.
What's an ethos?
Ethos, when we were looking for a name when we founded the company back in 2011, early 2012, we were looking for something. I'm big on the overall belief system, right? And having like a moral duty and carrying forward on something bigger than yourself. So we wanted to find the company name and kind of logo above that. Yeah. So that's how we came up with Ethos, which is kind of your morals and that kind of stuff. Or lack thereof, right?
Yeah.
The old Greek word. So we searched around and that's what we ended up going with, and we've loved it ever since. And
that's a good name.
It is. It's worked out pretty well.
Good name. You were in the Marine Corps.
I was. I spent 6 years in the reserves. I wasn't, anything high speed, but I was a combat engineer, so learned how to blow stuff up. Was a 1371 combat engineer over out in Courthouse Bay, North Carolina. School and all that. Went to boot camp. I actually joined the Marines the day I graduated high school. I walked off the stage. This is a funny story. Walked off stage. My parents packed me up. We went home. I went to bed for about 5 hours. We drove to St. Louis, and I got on the train and headed to boot camp.
Okay, so it was all set up.
So my buddies were still drunk from their party, and I was standing on the yellow footprints at 4 a.m. the next day, literally in San Diego going, what just happened? At 17 years old.
What have I done?
But it was one of those things, when I was growing up, I was big on the Vietnam War. I read every book about the Vietnam War. And,
interesting.
And the Marine Corps was so huge back then that I microcosmed on it. And when I was like 7th grade, I said, I'm going to join the United States Marine Corps. And then nothing stopped me. My parents didn't want me to go active duty. They were big on, hey, be the first price to go get a degree. I had good grades in high school, so I said, let me do the reserve. I'll do the reserves on my first contract. And if I don't like it, or I get my degree, or if at any point it isn't working out, I'm going to go active duty.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of the agreement I made with them. So I did the reserves for 6 years and got a degree at Western Illinois University. So it kind of worked out. I got to serve my country and get my education at the same time.
Which we just found out. You're talking to Drew, who's behind the camera, guys, and he said, how do I know you? And they figured out you guys were in.
We went to college together. Old Western Bulldogs, right?
That's cool.
Right. Go Leathernecks.
Go Leathernecks. Small world, actually, when you think about it. So you get out of the Marine Corps and you do what?
I get out of the Marines. Actually, I was still in the Marines while I was in college. I was one of them go-getters. So I remember my parents picked me up. I spent 10 months in the Marine Corps, going through all your basic training, all the stuff that you have to go through. I literally landed on an airplane. My parents picked me up. They had already registered me for school. This is actually kind of a weird story. They registered my classes, and they had called me on the phone and said, hey, how many credit hours do you want to do? I go, I don't know. What's a credit hour?
Right.
And they're like, well, 1 hour is like essentially 1 hour class. So do you want to do like 20, 22 credit hours? I'm like, yeah, but 22 hours is all you have to go to school? Sure. Me not knowing. So I show up, my parents picked me up, they drove me straight to Macomb, Illinois from the airport in like Chicago. Drive me to Macomb, they kissed me, gave me $100 and said good luck. And I had classes at 8 a.m. the next morning. It was the first day of spring semester in January. So I'd been in the Marines since literally like May 1st through like the first week of January. I come back, start that semester. I didn't realize 22 credit hours is double what all my buddies in college were probably taking. 12 hours is about kind of average, 12, 14. So I did 20, 22, like 24 my first 3 credit hours, or first 3 semesters. So I graduated in 3 years. I kept up the pace. I didn't slow down because I'm already doing it and I was used to it and I had that discipline built from the Marine Corps. So I just kept doing it and got out of college early, essentially. I caught up to all my buddies that didn't join the military and went to school. I was graduating before some of them who were valedictorians, and they went to U of I. They're still in school trying to get their bachelor's. I already had it. So my senior year, starting in my senior year, I applied to a sheriff's office in Central Illinois, and they gave me a shot and let me start. I graduated college, and the next week I started with them. Went to the Police Training Institute at University of Illinois and started my career in law enforcement. That's been going coming up on 16 years now.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's been real fortunate. So I spent a few years with them, almost 3 years at the sheriff's office. Got hired by a real large state agency. Went and worked for them for 4 or 5 years, and then I actually took a leave of absence from them. Became a Secret Service agent. So went to the full Secret Service training.
I had that in my head, that timeline difference. So the state agency you were working for, you left there then and went off to the
Secret Service. My wife is from Southern California, and she had said, "Hey, I'd really like to maybe move back to Newport." And so I said, "Well, let me look." The agency I worked for at the time, I was on a full-time SWAT team. I was living life. I was at a career where I loved it. I didn't want to leave. I was only going to leave for something big, like the Secret Service. So I took a 2-year leave of absence. We went and did it. We moved out to LA, and I lived in Orange County and did a ton of cool stuff with the Secret Service for a couple years. But at the end of the day, we realized, in that career, you move every 5-7 years. A lot of times you don't get to pick where you move. So she knew we were destined for Washington, D.C. at some point, right? Then who knows after that? And we kind of decided we really want to raise our family flip-flopping around the country. And at the end of the day, you travel some days 20, 30 days a month. You're not around. We moved out to California. My wife was home, but I was not there.
I see.
And so, as much as I was back here. So we decided to come back here, and I came back to my agency, and I've been there ever since and had a really good career there. Spent a few more years on that full-time SWAT team where I was a sniper and did a lot of, extra training. I traveled, around the country with some of the best instructors out there and really learned a lot and got to experience things that I think a lot of cops probably spend their whole career and don't get to do what I did in 7-8 years there.
Yeah.
And so served, well over 1,000 high-risk search warrants and things like that, going after some bad dudes, and lived to tell about it. And I'm still here. And so life's good, learned a lot. And then we have Ethos Tactical, which we founded back in 2012. And that was one of another large reason me and my wife left the Secret Service. And I say me and my wife because your wife enlists in the service with you, basically, if everybody understands what I'm saying. It's a family commitment, because if they're not committed, it ain't going to last. That's why a lot of those guys are divorced and things like that. So we always wanted to have our own company. We wanted freedom. We knew we had marketable skill sets, and when you're working for a federal agency, you're not allowed to do that kind of stuff. So me coming back to my old agency, I knew I had the freedom to do those kind of things and have secondary employment, run my own business, and try to build something from the ground up.
Yeah, man.
And that's what Ethos was. So as soon as I got out of the Secret Service in December of 2011, boom, right on it. We had our company formed a couple weeks later and been rocking and rolling ever since, and we're doing better than ever.
That's awesome. You guys do multiple things.
We do. We Ethos, it started out as just a firearms tactical training company where we just, concealed carry was getting ready to fire up in the next year or so when we were founded. Tactical training, law enforcement officers, and things like that. And then, as that progressed, we realized we didn't want to be single facet. And it's a hard industry, and you understand that. Like, concealed carry is a grinder.
Yeah, it is.
You get all walks of life into that. Some people are committed, many of them aren't. And so we quickly diversified. We became a real large dealer for Crye Precision. So we sell, a ton of Crye Precision gear.
People that view this, that are listening, that don't know what that is, it's some of the highest quality gear.
Yes. Yeah, and they invented Multicam Camouflage.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so anyone that, if you're buying Multicam, Crye, that's their initial product.
Okay.
And so they just have some really top tier shelf gear. Fell in love with it. I used it in real life for a lot of years, and it helped me. And so I wanted to make sure guys were being able to get their hands on it. So we started dealing in that and getting it to the guys that needed it. Their big market is the military, and we find is sometimes your smaller police agencies, your one-off cop that his agency, he's in an 8-man department. They're not buying him a plate carrier. They're not buying him, the clothing he needs. That guy tries to get it, and there's a 1-year wait to get that from Crye Precision because they have such a backlog of their huge military contracts. So we started purchasing the gear well in advance, right? So I'll buy it today, knowing I'm not going to get it till next January, but I'm okay with that, right? So that we can get it to you when you call us. We have it.
We're front loading it.
We're front loading it for them, and that's essentially the market we have for that. So. We got into the Crye Precision and the online store, so that's kind of our Ethos Tactical. And then, so if you go to ethostactical.com, that's what you're going to see. And then we also have some online stores and all the Amazons and all that. Of course, you got to have that stuff. But we started delving off into fingerprinting and live scan business. We have a background company we do here in Illinois with Ethos Fingerprinting. And then our newer company, it's only been around about 3 years or so, is Ethos Strategic. Is our private security company. So we're a private security contractor agency in Illinois, which is actually a hard license to get. It's not one of those licenses that you just, you just pay a little bit of fee. There's testing involved. About a year process to even get it. You usually got to hire a lawyer, that kind of stuff. So we spent the time because of my background, private security and the things we do there. So we're up and running, been doing that for a few years. And we provide, I don't give my list of clients. We're very low key on who we work for and stuff, but we provide what I think is top tier private security for, clients all over the country and all over the world.
And I won't say who, but you spent the last handful of years running the security detail for a high profile person.
Absolutely.
So it's like all dovetails together.
It absolutely does. And in that industry, in the private security industry, it's really it's all about your reputation, right? So, if you mail it in, you lose the dogfight on something, you're not going anywhere. So everything we do it's a building block. We ace this contract. We make that client loves us. Guess what that client's going to do? They're going to tell their friend about us, right? So we don't market. You don't see us, posting things on the web about Ethos Strategic. We get the emails from a company saying, "Hey, heard about you from so and so. Would love to sit down and chat." And that is a great thing when you can build it. You can't build that overnight. And unfortunately, and this is something I love to tell people that are getting into even private security, private contracting, law enforcement, whatever, you can't buy reputation. And in this day and age, these kids that are coming out of college, coming out of high school, they're like, "Hey, so what do I got to do 5 days to get there?" And it's like, this isn't a 5-day thing. It's not even a 5-year thing. This is a 15-year build. But you have to be dedicated to it every single day or you're not going to get there, right? And that's so the guys that work for us, they're in on that motto and they understand that. And they start small. Hey, I'm going to put you on this a 1-day gig with these 3 guys. They're going to test you out. Then I'm going to put you on a 2-day gig. Right? And but they come and they go, "Hey, I want the 10-day gig in Europe with the high profile guy." And it's like, yeah, it's not happening. Right? You know what I mean?
Not only have you not earned that, but I can't trust you. With the capital of our reputation.
Absolutely. And so, and that isn't just for the private security industry. That is everything. Right? And I find more and more kids that I talk to. I like to go to high schools, grade schools, and give presentations in my government job. And they're always like, "Hey, so what do I have to do to get X? What do I have to do to be you?" And I'm like, you have to wake up every day. You need to work out. Right? You need to not smoke marijuana. Right? And they're like, well, and I'm like, no, it's not up for, you need to stay out of drugs. Don't get arrested.
It's not, right? It's not about your viewpoint of whether or not it should be legal. It's you can't get the job if you do that.
Exactly. And they're not willing to sacrifice for, it's hard to sit there and go, in 2022, this is where I want to be. Right? In 2019, it's hard to say that, or it's easy to say, but then are you going to actually pave the path to get there?
Do the things to get
there. And I find less and less there's people willing to do that. Because you turn on Instagram and what do you have? People that made it overnight. And
do you suppose that there's less people, or are we doing what our dads did and said like back in the day? I mean, I'm kind of the mindset like that. There's always been dudes like you that work real hard and walk that path, and then those that like just complain and...
Yeah, you're probably right. You know what I think magnifies it? social media, right? YouTube, things like that.
You know
that
what? I got to
magnetize.
interject something. So, a guy or a gal on social media, and I'm not just saying it because we're on social media. That's work.
It is
work.
work.
In order to be successful at
Absolutely.
it. Now, caveat, like if it's just like if I decided to oil myself up and put a Speedo on and just take like poolside pics like Drew sometimes has suggested that we do.
Right.
You know, and I'm just like, doing like, I'm joking, but like tits and ass kind of pages, like yes, dudes are just going to look at that.
Absolutely.
But that's not really generating any revenue. But like somebody that's developing a brand, it's taken us years to
Absolutely
do that.
No, you're 100% right, and that's the. Everybody thinks, create an Instagram page, throw a post up, and I should get 3,000 likes.
Yeah, but
it's not that simple.
But the viewer doesn't see that.
Right.
Just like a person wouldn't look at you and be like, oh, he left high school, went right to the Marine Corps, went right and did double duty at college.
Yeah. They don't know it. They don't realize what you did to get there. And a lot of times they think there's a magic sauce. I have people ask me, what? Tell me the secret. There's no secret.
I was talking to Dave Harrington the other day. I was telling you this upstairs, and it's probably at least every podcast I tell a Dave Harrington story. And Dave said to me, he was talking about something, and he goes, how do you build a reputation? And when I'm on the phone, so I can't see him, I go, is that a question, or is this like some kind of rhetorical thought? Mm-hmm. And he goes, no, man, how do you build a reputation? And I'm like, I could probably pontificate on that for an hour.
Right.
And he goes, I'll give you a hint. It's 2 words. And the first 2 words that came to mind were, I go, hard work? I'm on the phone, and he's like, because I don't, and he's like, you're goddamn right. We started thinking about it.
Grinding,
right?
Yeah.
But it's like, and of course you could say, like, you could do the hard work that goes the wrong way.
Right.
But I think you got to be intelligent enough to know that, like, I see that, I want to go that way.
Right.
And you could do, like, I could work really hard at a job or a education that doesn't take me where I want to go.
Absolutely.
So that's kind of a no-brainer.
No, it is. I love it. I mean, I have some buddies. I got one buddy that I actually work with now. He has a degree in Russian literature.
Oh, interesting.
And I bust a little balls there once. I go, what were you thinking when you went to a Big Ten school?
Nostrovia.
Yeah, you went to a Big Ten school.
What was it?
You're not of Russian descent, and you spend 4 years at a Big Ten school paying I don't even know how many hundreds of thousands for a degree in Russian literature. Now, he is successful. He's a very intelligent individual. And I just say, if you hadn't ended up in this line of work, what the hell were you going to do?
What is,
right?
What?
I don't know. He often says, I have no idea.
So he enjoyed it?
He enjoyed it.
Okay.
Didn't know what he wanted to do with his life, so kind of went into that. And I laugh because I just say, okay, there's a lot of those degrees out there, right? Mm-hmm. Then you say, what's the applicability to that, right? I don't know. In college I studied law enforcement, and a lot of people told me not to. Don't do that. Get a degree in something else.
Business
that way,
or something.
If you can never be a cop, you'll have a fallback. And I said, but I want to be a cop and I enjoy it, so I'm going to do my passion.
I'm going to go do the thing.
I'm going to make sure that happens 100%. And so I didn't have to have a fallback.
Yeah, which is for losers.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't look at it. I try not to look at it. Yeah,
I think it is.
Yeah,
but
there's a lot of people that say that.
Schwarzenegger said something to the effect of, like, if you have a backup plan, I'm butchering it, but basically he said if you have a backup plan, you have no plan.
Absolutely.
Like you're just, and that's my paraphrase version, but.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of like, I just saw a quote the other day and it said, the problem isn't the problem, it's your attitude about the problem.
Yeah, man.
Right? And I was like, ding. Mm-hmm. Okay. And I put it in my little quotes list on my phone. Because it's the same thought process there. But I literally probably had 20 people tell me that in high school. Don't study law enforcement. Make sure you do psychology or do teaching or geography or something so you have a fallback. And I was like, well, I don't enjoy that stuff. Won't enjoy going to class, right? I won't enjoy that. But I was disciplined the entire time. I took all my classes in the morning, and by noon I was sitting in the gym, right? I did a little bodybuilding, things like that. So I played rugby and stuff like that in college. So I was disciplined on it. And meanwhile, some of my buddies, like, they signed up for afternoon classes, never went, right? And you watch them. They're there your freshman semester. They don't just come back sophomore. Some of them that stuck it out the first 2 years, all of a sudden they're not there.
Yeah.
Right? And all of a sudden that last year you're sitting around and you're like, there's not that many of us left that were here 3 years ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's still going on today.
Sure.
Right? And it's not just going on at the collegiate level. It's going on in plumbing, in the trades. Yeah. It's going on in welding. It's everything. And so I often, when people ask me about, the kind of the holistic approach to life, I just say, find your passion and go get it 100% every day. Right? This is my passion. So I go at it. But the other thing too is we've been driving this company. I haven't had a spare minute in my life for the last, 30 years.
But you're willing to trade that.
I'm trading that because it makes me happy.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Right? It makes me like grinding makes me happy.
And some people, I've got a family member that works like a dog at a job that she does not like but earns a good living. And I go, so you're trading a paycheck, a 401k, health benefits for something you hate. And you're costing it out and you're saying, all right, this time, this finite resource that I cannot get back, but that's kind of how I am. Like, we'll have dinner, I'll come down here and start filming something or making notes on whatever, and I dig it. Or paying to have weird shit like that done. Funny, I ordered these one day on Amazon and my wife's like, what are you doing?
Yeah, where did those come from? It's like something my 7-year-old would have.
I'm like, you don't get it. Don't worry about it. It's from downstairs. But to your point, that passion thing's interesting. I got a sis that went to a private university, big bucks, studied, I think the degree is religious studies, like general religious studies.
Okay.
Now, my dad was a pastor, but the sister is in no way, shape, or form like going into any religious. She's a lobsterman. She lives in northern Maine on an island. She's a lobsterman now, which there's a whole story how that happened. But like,
that's actually pretty interesting.
Yeah, she's got this like degree that costs 6 figures, and the cool thing is lobster fishing is super lucrative. So she's been able to like pay off her school loans in a decade instead of 40 years.
Right.
But it's like she wouldn't trade it. She said the memories, the girls she met, the different things she was exposed to in that environment.
Right.
Like, I'm trying to think of Russian literature, and I'm like, I don't even
know what that means. Did they just speak Russian?
Is that Russian?
Yeah, did they just speak Russian all day in class? I'm confused.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And he's very, very successful. He works for a large government agency now, and is a good dude. But there's a lot of people like him, right? And I wonder, I'm like, what's the end game here, right? What was did you think you were going to get out and get a $200,000 a year job doing that? I don't know. Maybe. Where's that at? I've never heard of it.
You normally assume somebody like that would be at a university teaching.
Right. They're teaching somebody to take their professor job. It's pretty much what they're doing.
Yeah.
Here nor there.
So I guess the thought process that makes me go through is there's nothing wrong with somebody grinding it out at a welding job, or I have a family member that worked at a grocery store for 40 years and retired.
Absolutely.
People need to do that, and some people that makes them comfortable, that makes them happy, but the world needs dudes that I can imagine your daily routine, because I manage a couple businesses, and to some people around me it's troublesome. I've gotten really good at shutting this sucker off. I don't try to I don't sit at meals and play on the phone.
Right.
And I don't like the word balance too much, because I think it's a crutch word, but you do have to weigh out and balance out like family time and work time. But for me, it wasn't like I could shut the phone off and be like, all right, I got to be with the kids, but I still wasn't there. That's the point.
Right. That's the point. My wife and I have argued that before, where she's like, hey, take your daughter here and go do this. And it's like, I have like 27 things coming down the pipe in the next 20 minutes from work. And I go, so I can go do that, but this stuff's going to be on my mind. So give me an hour, and then I'm all in, right? And you have to have that kind of relationship with your spouse. But my spouse is all in on this too.
Sure.
Right? So, I mean, when you call Ethos Tactical and you call our business line, Lisa's the one that answers. She's picking up the phone.
Funny story on that. I got his cell phone number years ago, and I'd be like texting him, and one day it's like, who's this? And then I get another message from another number, and you're like, why are you texting my wife? and I'm like, well, first of all, nobody told me that you got a new telephone number. But I'm glad I didn't send anything like dirty or off color.
Yeah, but it's good, when your spouse can be involved in your business and your
line of work. Mine is.
But we wake up in the morning. I'm out the door early, usually between 5 and 5:30 every morning. But My wife gets up, boom, she's packaging all day long, answering phones, sending work email. You get where I'm going?
Oh, yeah.
We come home at night. Most couples come home at night. Hey, how was your day? Oof. Hey, so how much this? How many people went here? Hey, we need to put that. I need to send a 1099 on that. Did you get this shipped today? And it's nonstop. Did you send the email on that contract for Europe? And it's just nonstop, right? So we're working till 6, 7, 8 o'clock at night. And I was thinking the other day, I saw somebody, it's something on the internet, and this guy said, hey, what do I have to do to be successful? And he said, well, how many hours a day do you work? He goes, well, like 8. And he's like, then work 16. Right? And I went, oh my God, thank you. I'd never said it before, but that was, right, to get to the point where you can say work 16, I don't have to anymore, right? You want to get to that point. So I have sacrificed all these years, right, to get to where we are today, where like this weekend, we're unplugging, right? When I leave here, we got a weekend away. We're going over to Galena, hanging out with the family this weekend, unplugging. I couldn't do that 3 years ago. I couldn't do it.
Interesting thought about that is the guy that asked that question doesn't really want to be successful.
He doesn't want to be successful.
Because you wouldn't, like, it's kind of like yoga. Like when I started doing yoga, it made me feel so good. And I've been doing it for years. And I remember the lady that taught it. One day I come in there and she's like, you got the bug. And I'm like, I'm a bug. But I realized I'm here every day.
Yeah.
And it was like, because I enjoyed it and it made me feel good. And so it wasn't like a thing I drudgingly did, like, shit, I got to be at work.
Well, no, you were getting the dopamine hit from it, right?
Yeah.
You're getting the dopamine
which
hit.
I get from the work stuff.
Yes, which you get from the work. If you do something that's your passion, the government agency I work for every day, there's a lot of guys that work with me that are just punching a clock
and
every day.
Yeah.
They hate it. They're working shift work. They don't like their bosses.
A friend of mine
they don't like the uniform.
That job, and he knew for the last 10 years how many days. And he could even tell you if he looked, 24 days and 4 hours until every time.
And I have a lot of guys that work with me that do that, and I look at them and I just think how miserable.
It's a waste, man.
It's a waste. I love this job.
Yeah.
I'd sacrifice my life on this job tomorrow if I had to, right? And I was like, I hope I never end up being them, but guess what? I'm not going to let that happen, right? Because even on your worst day in that job, even on your worst day, you go home and you say, I did something for other people today who are completely unappreciative of anything I did, right? You know what I mean? Nobody understands the amount of work you're putting in and the things you do to keep people safe every day. And that could be from anything as small as a traffic stop all the way up to, a domestic or whatever it is, right? Police pursuit, whatever, a shooting, doesn't matter. People don't understand the amount of risk that police officers in this country put themselves under every day.
Let me comment on that because you're a cop, so it comes out wrong from you. So we just lost a cop here. I don't know when this pumps out, when we get it out, it could be a couple weeks later, but we lost a local deputy here yesterday.
Yes,
right?
yesterday.
So
tragic.
I did a discussion last night because there's people that like hate cops, and I think a lot of times it's not even hating cops; it's like hating authority because they don't want anybody to tell them what to do.
Exactly.
And I'm kind of like that.
Or they don't want to get in trouble for something they think they might be skirting.
Yeah.
Right.
And there are most definitely people in the police business that should not be there. But I have this like super simple mindset that like we the people elect lawmakers. And then they make laws on our behalf, and then we hire people to uphold the laws. Like
Absolutely.
It's super simple. So if you don't like the guy upholding it, you just change the law, and then he has to uphold a different law. But as I started musing about that in a feed that we did, talking about this gentleman that passed, that's what my discussion, and I want to say this because I don't want it to come from you, literally, even if you're in like small town America, nobody calls the cops because like, hey, I'm having a great day. Would you like to come over for a cup of coffee?
Right.
No, it's grandma just fell and you're the first person that can get here.
Yep.
My dog just bit my kid's face. The neighbor just started a fight with me and he's drunk. A car just crashed into the...
Absolutely.
It's just every single phone call.
You deal with everyone in chaos. Every person you deal with, there's some kind of chaos going on.
There's no happy other than... Stop by the local donut shop.
And hey now, come on now. I don't eat donuts, especially on duty.
But I think people do forget that. Even cops, firemen, people in emergency rooms, just most first responders that subject themselves to that. Usually at this point, when I tell this speech, people say, well, they volunteered. No shit. They volunteered to go do even something is, I'm sure you've had this many times, I'm assuming at least a few, somebody's dead. You got to go show up and there's a dead body.
Absolutely.
Like that kind of stuff. Most humans nowadays in a first world country, we don't deal with that.
Right.
The cops come, the firemen go, yep, they're dead. The coroner comes, and then the funeral home comes and takes them away, and we don't have to do nothing.
Right.
They even say, here's a card you can call, and they'll come clean up the mess.
No, it is traumatizing, and I don't say that like trying to be a pansy ass. Where I can probably picture every dead body I've ever seen in my career. My first call ever, brand new sheriff's deputy. It was my first day. I hadn't gone to the academy. I was 21 years old, barely. All right, just turned 21. I'm on the job. It's my first day. I got there and they said, hey, we're going to put you in with the detectives. I had to wait like a week till the academy started. So they put me with the detectives my first day, and they're like, come on, kid, you know.
Thinking you'll be out of trouble.
Yeah. They're like, hey, they're going to show you what they do. And I get in with this old crusty detective, and, he'd been there 25 years. And we screw off all morning. And I'm like, okay, we don't do much here, right? And then we go to lunch. And while we're at lunch, we get, hey, there was a suicide. You need to go. So they drive there. Literally, mind you, this is about my 5th hour on the job, right out of college. And I'm still in the Marine Corps, too. And walk into this house. It was actually a retired cop who had really bad cancer, and he killed himself. The gun was still in his hand, right? His wife was traumatized, crying, all that. He was in bad shape. And the detective said, well, here's gloves and a paper bag. Put it in the bag. I'll never forget. I can picture that guy right now as clear as I'm looking at you, right? And that was burned 16 years ago.
Burned in.
Right? It's burned in. And I have 50 other stories just like that.
Sure.
Right? And so if that's me, and I consider myself semi-hard ass most days, right? What are some of the other cops?
Sure.
What are your firefighters, some of your EMTs, your ER doctors, all of these career fields that are dealing with that every day, it compounds on you.
Sure.
I think that's where some people say that PTSD and things kind of gain up in you over years. I can imagine that it does.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And so I do think about that. My wife and I were just talking about that the other day. We had a close family member, or friend of our family pass away. And
sorry to hear that.
It was kind of a traumatizing event for some of their family. And yes, that, when they were telling the story to us that morning, you start thinking, you're like, oh my gosh. And my wife, I'm like, well, this is, we just had that 2 weeks ago at work and dealt with that 3 days ago. Yeah. And she's like, oh, wow. Didn't realize that. Right? Even your own loved ones don't know.
After all these years, you're not coming home saying,
no.
Let me tell you what happened. Play by play.
I come home from work. I can't remember the last time my wife said, hey, what'd you do at work today? We don't even discuss it.
Sure.
Unless I bring it up, and so that's just the way it is. We try to keep I compartmentalize it. And I think to be a successful police officer, you really have to do that. The guys I've seen on this job, a lot of them very good cops that end up failing and end up getting fired or doing stuff that gets them in discipline issues or having to quit, are the ones that are a cop 365, 24/7. They never turn it off.
Can't shut it off.
You know who those guys are. You've met them. There's some here in your local agencies, and you're friends with a lot of cops up here, as am I.
I know exactly. I can picture a bunch of them in my head right now.
That if you called them on a Sunday afternoon, they'd been off work for 2 days, they might as well have the uniform on. They still think they're like copping, and it's like that really tears at you at year 20, year 21, year 20. It just tears them down.
Cortisol levels all
absolutely. So
these are guys that can be physically fit, dying of heart attacks.
Absolutely, it is. It's stressful. And I was diagnosed about a year ago with high blood pressure. I'm like, I'm in my late 30s. What the heck, right? And you start to realize I spent 8 years going to bed at 10, 11 o'clock at night, getting up at 1 a.m.
Guzzling coffee.
Drinking a Monster, driving to Chicago, serving a search warrant, right? And then
just
driving home, not going to bed when you got home, right? So now it's 7, 8 in the morning. Okay, home, you work all day. And then, kid comes home from school, stay up, get a few hours sleep. Next day, same thing. Mm-hmm. That tears on you physically. It really does.
There's a famous Green Beret that's an instructor. I don't want to say his name because I don't know if he ever told anybody this story, but he's our age. Mm-hmm. Cutting the grass one day, I think it was 2 years ago. Did the old, went and took a shower, and then he was smart enough from all of his medical training. He was like, shit, I'm having a heart attack, and drove himself to the ER.
Yeah.
He was 38 or 40 maybe.
Yeah.
Super fit. He was a Green Beret. Didn't smoke, not a drinker.
Absolutely.
But just that, all of that accumulated stress.
Mm-hmm. It is, yeah. And so definitely something you think about as you get a little older. That's for sure.
And the other thing about the police and EMS workers, and it's totally easy to find data, the age of life is shorter.
Mm-hmm.
The instances of suicide, divorce through the roof.
Yep.
The instances of children having issues with like drugs and alcohol because dad
Absolutely.
or mom are
Right.
not.
They're detached.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they, they're two disciplinarians. Me and my wife, it's funny, we were driving up here today, and we were talking about how we were raised. I don't even know how we got on that topic, but we like to get in these deep conversations, which is good for a relationship. And, my parents are flawed, right? They didn't, they don't have $1 million jobs or anything like that.
Which makes them flawed.
Right, makes them flawed, yes. I wasn't raised a rich child. My parents were smokers and drinkers and stuff. I never smoked. I rarely drink, a beer here and there on the weekend or something, but I'm not a drinker.
You don't drink like I do, like a professional.
Right, yeah, I don't. People start quoting beers and I'm like, Miller Lite, right? And you say, you know what, I watched what I thought was wrong, right? And so when I could make my own decisions, I was older. And you notice how like 50% of the kids, if they have parents that are druggies and, dirtbags and not doing anything in the world, the kids follow in their exact path.
And then the other half.
And then the other half
no, thank you.
Go, oh, thank you for being a great example of what not to do. And we were talking a lot about that, me and my wife. Right, and how that actually drove me to want to be more fit, more healthy, not smoke, things like that. And you can watch, and that worked for me and my brother. But you see a lot of kids that go the other way. The same thing in leadership. I've worked for a lot of bad leaders in my various career fields.
Not leaders, I call them.
Not leaders,
That's
yes.
what I call them.
Dumbasses, right? Guys that thought leadership was yelling at you or talking down to you or, being an asshole when there was zero reason to be an asshole, right? And that, a lot of the guys that work for me now, they're like, man, you're so, you don't yell. You're just like, even when stuff's chaotic, you're just kind of like, okay, hey, do this, check on this, let me know, give me a call on this. And I'm like, because I worked for dudes that did the exact opposite of that. And it was such a relief for me when I became, when I rose in the ranks to be able to have the authority and the ability and the leadership to go, hey, I got guys that are looking up to me, that answer to me, and I don't want them to hate me every day. And I want them to want to follow me, not because I told them to follow me, right? I want to be like, I'm walking that way, so they walk that way. I don't have to go, hey, get in line. And so some of the bad leaders, and I can rattle their names off, but I won't do that on a podcast, that shaped me of who I am today. From the military on up, I had some really good ones. I said, all right, someday when I'm that guy, I'm going to do A, B, and C. And then I had a lot of guys I was like, I'll never do A, B, C, D, E, or F. In fact, I probably won't do anything that guy's ever done.
I've got some, some stuff in my head like that too.
You have people like that too. And I think back on that a lot. And so when people ask me, hey, what's your leadership style? I say, my leadership style is not to be a douchebag, right? And to stop. I've never been in a situation that I couldn't take one deep breath and go, okay, hold on here. Don't lose your shit, right? Just
sure.
There's a way to handle this, right? And I find that especially cops, many of which are type A, respond to that better. Or the private security industry where you have guys that are like, hey, I'm a badass. I've done X, Y, and Z. They're gonna respond to you more and want to follow you wherever you're going or work for you or whatever, or do more for you, volunteer to do the extra things if you give them respect. And respect is earned, not given, kind of thing. And that's kind of my ethos of the leadership is learn from people. When you meet people in your life and they suck, don't be like them. Be smart enough when you get to wherever he is in life to go, I'm not going to do that. So many guys in this career field, they hated that sergeant or whoever he was that just rode them like a wet noodle every day. And then when they get to be the sergeant, they go, well, it's my turn to ride the noodle, right? And it's like, why? You have the opportunity. You have the distinct. Somebody just handed you.
You said ride the noodle.
Ride the noodle. Yeah, write that down. Quote of the week. That is good. But you get where I'm going with that.
Yeah.
I wish more guys would do it. That's what I coach. Like my young sergeants, the sergeants that work for me, when we promote them, when I hand them a gold badge, I say, hey, dude, that gold badge right there, the easiest part was me handing it to you. And every day that came before, you got to earn that now.
Earn that.
You haven't earned it. And they're like, some of them are like, well, yeah, I mean, I earned it. No, you didn't earn it. You get to earn it every day. Gold leads from the front, right? You have to do more than you did yesterday.
That's my synopsis of leadership whenever we speak on it is leaders lead.
Right.
I say that, like, it used to piss off some people in politics because, like, hey guys, like, just talking about stuff like in this circular fashion to nowhere.
Yeah.
Like, leaders lead, so you're going somewhere. So
Yes.
like, go wherever it is. I mean, it's like a kind of an open-ended way of looking at it, but like, if you're not, like, if you think about what you're doing in a leadership role, and if you're not directing your people to a place, then you're not leading.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, then you're just coasting. So I spend my days often thinking of that, and I try to be cognizant of that aura. And it also drives you when you're at work and you go, you know what, maybe all right, it's time to go home. I'm just going to snake home. It's like, or could I make that extra traffic stop? Right? Will I back that guy up on that call? Will I jump that call so that guy doesn't have to? Right? And save him from driving an extra 10 miles when I could have easily just kept going. You're the boss. Nobody's going to send you that call. Right? You say, you know what? No, I'm going to do the hard right over the easy wrong. Right? And that's got to be the motto. And it can't be the motto 5 days a week. It has to be a motto 7 days a week, or you're a phony.
That's an ethos.
That's an ethos. 100%. That's an ethos. And that's, at the end of the day, that's the company. And it's not just a company, but it's the way I live. And that's why we've turned it into a company.
I have a good friend of mine who said one time his father looked at him after he had done something that was less than desirable, and his dad just said, Matthew, is that the kind of man you want to be? And turned and like walked away. And
that
like,
has a profound effect on
yeah,
a person.
and this kid, he was probably like early 20s, and I don't know what, it wasn't like, he didn't get caught like stealing or something, but it might have been like, just something his father didn't instill in him. And like, I think about it, not to, bust my dad's chops, but I probably would have heard,
Right.
And all his dad did was say, is that the kind of man you want to be?
Yeah.
And I think he said he sat there and like,
Right.
And he costed this out like, no, that's not the kind of dude I want.
Talk about leadership,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Kudos to Dad for owning it right there with an 8-second response.
Yeah,
and
not
just
some
turns like
lengthy
mic
speech.
drop, as they would call it now, and walking away. I got to
work on that, like with my kids.
Right. Over explanation.
Yeah.
Right. But I think that's part of our culture these days too. Right. You want the quick, easy fix like we talked about. And sometimes you're like, hey, you can't do that because of X. Instead of just going, you're way better than that. My 7-year-old knows when I'm really pissed. I literally just look at her and I go, you're way better than that. Right. So it's very similar. And she's like, well, I thought so, and it's like,
I'm 7. These are very complex theories.
They are, but it's good stuff, and that's and these are the things like I think people think about them, but then sometimes do you have friends in the world that you watch them and they're just going, Monday's like the Monday before and Tuesday's like the Tuesday before. I used to. And Wednesday's like the Thursday before.
I don't have some friends like that anymore.
He's better than me. I still have to be friends with the laymen.
No, I know people like that, but
and you see they got like, let's say they got 3-4 kids. They're going in 19 different directions.
I got 18 different.
Yeah, this one's in basketball, volleyball, soccer. This one we got to travel here. We got a 2-hour travel to this, and then I just watch the years go by.
Yeah,
and then they come and talk to you, and they go, "How do I? How did you guys do that? When did you guys find time to do that?" It's like, I didn't have time to do it, but I made time to do it.
Yeah.
Right? You know what I mean? Like, yeah, we sacrificed. You know what? We told our daughter 2 sports. Right? Like, hey, sorry. It's still a lot. Like, hey, sorry, we're not going to do soccer, wrestling, basketball, and baseball all in the same week.
Yeah.
Okay? And gymnastics. Like, you have to prioritize your life like we have to prioritize ours.
Sometimes sitting in your bedroom reading a book's not a bad thing.
Absolutely. Educating yourself. I have this thing because, of course, every kid or every parent thinks their kid's going to be the next, Kobe Bryant or whatever. The statistics are there. You want to talk statistics.
Sure.
You're going to spend... we have some family friends. They have a daughter. She's in this really good volleyball program, right? And it's like $12,000 a year
Holy
to be in this
high school?
traveling. Yeah, it's a high school program, but it's not through the school.
Okay.
They travel all over the country playing elite teams, and all
Wow.
that. And you go, okay, so take the 12 grand, then what are you spending every weekend to drive and hotels and food and
20
all
grand
that?
a year.
Right,
probably.
let's like 20. So what if you took that 20 grand and you put it in a college savings account for your kid? Right? Because my guess now, maybe your kid gets a scholarship, maybe.
Yeah.
What if they don't?
Yeah.
You'd have had $100,000 sitting aside, right? And so these are the things that when people ask me those, I just give them the honest answer, right? Is she going to remember that in 5 years, or would she remember that she had $100,000 to go get her degree started before she had, right? And so, not banging on them, I've told them this.
Now, there's something to be said though for enjoying. I'm not a sports guy myself, but in being part of a team effort and
absolutely no, I'm not saying not to do it.
I know.
She could be on the high school team, right? Still, but we're talking. You're going to this elite level. It's like the guy. I have again friends that are in the that IA basketball and all that. That's kind of like the intermediary for college and all. And it's every weekend, or hockey, and they're traveling all over the Midwest. And they're like, oh, I don't have any money. I can't buy the new car. I'm like, because you're spending $1,000 a week traveling the country for hockey tournaments, right? And so I'm not banging on them, but it's like you have to prioritize. And
I'm going to interrupt. That begs the simple question I always ask when people talk to me about this kind of stuff. What's your goal?
Right.
They're like, what's the what's your goal? Like, well, it's the kids are, no, what's the goal? Like, well, I'm going to be a good parent and. No, like, what do you really want?
What's the goal? Are you trying to get them a scholarship?
Yeah.
Do you want them to be in the Olympics?
Yeah.
What's the goal?
Yeah, what are you trying to do? And when you start to, and that could be, you could apply that to anything.
Right.
Like, I go to this job I hate. Well, what do you want?
Right.
What's your goal? Not to hate my job. What would that look like? What would it look like? I don't know.
Spell that out.
Yeah, well, you're going to have to think about it. That might not just pop into your head.
Right.
So those kinds of things are interesting to me because I think it's sometimes people don't want, it's laziness. And that's my interpretation. I don't want to sit and actually, it's easier for me to give my kid what they want or just continue doing this because if I have to think about doing other stuff, it's too hard.
Right.
So I'm just going to do this, not invest the thought energy.
Right.
And
no, you're 100% right. And that's I have a good buddy of mine that works for our company, and he calls me every day, and he helps us out with a lot of stuff. And he's like, "Man, I just need to find time for X, Y, and Z." I said, "How much TV do you? How many hours of TV do you watch?" Right? He does a few hours at night with what? Don't watch any.
There you go.
Don't watch any. Right? There's your answer.
Yeah.
Right? I was like, I have Fox News playing while I'm sending a dozen emails. And hashtag grinding at 9 o'clock at night. Guys at work, they're like, "Why did I get emails from you at 11:30
That's my wife.
And I'm like, well, because the wife went to bed, kids are in bed, everything's good. I can sit down at Zen time, really think about the next day, what I got to tackle at the office. And guess what? I'm going to get it started early. And I fire it off so when I get to the office, I can grind on other stuff. Maybe get a workout in on my lunch break, right? And you take that out, and that's the stuff you decide to do. Conversely, I have guys I work with that the minute they go 10:42, don't call their phone. You're not going to hear. I used the old adage, they take the uniform and wherever it lands, they throw it. Wherever the vest and the badge and the shirt and the hat lands, they're like, it's still sitting there 3 days later when their first shift comes back up, right? They're like, oh, there it is. It's still wrinkled, and they throw it back on. And then you wonder why you're not the colonel, right?
You got to do the things the colonel does.
You got to do the things the colonel does to be the colonel, right? And it ain't easy to be the colonel.
We've got a buddy here locally, Dan Hart, he's been on the podcast. He's city councilman, very successful business owner. He owns like 5 businesses. He owns a jiu-jitsu gym, very seasoned competitor in MMA. And people always ask him questions like we're talking about, and he'll ask might be a financial thing, like I can't save money. How much you pay for cable?
Yeah.
How much you pay for your cell phone?
Right.
And just like if you ever looked, Instagram will tell you how long you've been. Have you ever looked at that?
Yeah. How long you're on Instagram, or the new thing you get the alert once a week.
It graphs it out, and it'll tell you like there are days, and for me, I'm not on there looking at pictures. It's responding to messages and stuff.
Right.
But I'll look 3 hours today. And I'm like,
crazy?
Holy shit!
Spend 3 hours on Instagram.
So it's like, all right, well, in some ways, a lot of our business comes
from that, right? So you have to be back involved in it.
But then I think, how can I make that 2 hours or an hour or whatever?
I have to be more finite.
Yeah.
And you just go, okay, hey, I'm following too many people.
Mm-hmm.
That guy doesn't really provide me anything in his feed.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I find myself occasionally like, you know what? Do I really need to listen to CarryTrainer anymore? I'm just kidding.
I'm
you get where I'm going. And so
you.
I'm like, he posts pictures of his girlfriend and stuff. Whatever. You're done.
Yeah. Because this is for me business.
For me, I'm on here and I'm seeing stuff, and some things I see on Instagram, I go, why am I not doing that?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
You pick up stuff where you go, hey, that's a great idea, or you know what, we need to be marketing our Crye Precision that way, or whatever it is, right? And so it is useful, but there's that new thing on the iPhone. I don't know if you started doing it like earlier this year. It pops up on Sundays. Every Sunday it pops up and it says you were on your iPhone so many days, hours, and minutes this week. It's every Sunday. Since it started, I have tried to beat it where every week it says you were 2 hours less than last week, or 1 hour. I'm literally like 19 for 19 since they started this thing, right?
Getting better.
I'm getting better.
It's a decision
to just go, I don't need to get on, or I got the Apple Watch now, and so someone sends you a text, you can kind of just go, okay, I don't need to answer that.
My wife and I like to go on vacations, and I'm very good at it. Takes me a day or two, but all of a sudden I don't look at it anymore. Other than like at night we'll be drinking, I'll play music on it, but other than that, like but I think it again begs the question, what's the goal? And so you're talking about like, how do I get there? What do you, like sports games with your kids? I got a friend, I shit you not, 6 months out of the year, his family every day has something. If the 180 something days and he'll tell me like, we'll drive 4 hours for a swim meet. And and he hates it because he's like, it's 4 hours. We're there for 3 hours.
Swim meet for 4 hours back. Yeah. Hashtag your Sunday.
The whole time I'm there, my kid actually swims for about a minute.
Right. So
it's like
does the freestyle 50.
Yeah. Right. And I go, well, that's like, you are letting them do that. Right. Like you are doing it. And I'm not against swimming like we are. I don't even want to go back through that. But it's like you're choosing this. Right. I look at like life as like, I have this finite resource. I can do whatever the hell I want with it.
It's fickle.
Yeah.
Our friend up here that was killed yesterday, our deputy, do you think when he went to work that morning, did he think he was going to get executed by an assassin? I'm sure he didn't. Right? And so, we posted on ours yesterday. I actually sent an email to my guys at work because we were involved in the incident, and I said, hey, kiss your families tonight because he didn't get to. Right? And so at the end of the day, it's like, it could be gone tomorrow. I could leave here, get in my car, and get wiped out by a school bus at the stop sign. Right? So do I want to spend my last Sunday, right? Everybody knows who Gary Vee is, right? The big Instagram guy. And he had a thing where he was riding in his limo, and somebody recognized him. And the gal, he rolled down his window, and she's like, Gary. And she's like, hey, tell me something inspirational. He goes, you're going to die tomorrow. And she's like, what? And he's like, you're going to die tomorrow. Go enjoy life. Right?
I like that.
She was like, I love you. And I was like, dude, you're on it again, right? It's like, thank you. You know what I mean? And when I see and hear that, it makes me go, hey, value that. Get rid of the negativity in your life and do things that are positive. Because, at the end of the day, why do we own our companies? Why do you do CarryTrainer? You enjoy it, but hey, you're trying to provide for your family. Sure. You're doing things. You're trying to get somewhere in life with that. So someday you can live on a beach, right? And
I don't think I will.
You won't be you're going to be the eternal.
I'm probably dead.
So you'll be the eternal, People's Republic of Northern Illinois, up here, McHenry County, no beach. Like, you know what my goal is? I want to live on a beach and nobody call me, right? I work every day, so someday I can go.
That's bullshit. You will never shut that switch.
You don't think I'll shut it off?
Nah.
That's my goal. My wife says that too. No. But I go on vacation.
Maybe that's arrogant of me to say that as if I know.
No, it isn't. It isn't, because you're right. Because I never shut it off up to this point.
But you have had to, though. When you amass enough physical wealth, a mortgage,
right?
Maybe you'll say like, all right, that's enough. I've satiated whatever needed to be
whatever
fed.
the need was.
Yeah.
Because I feel like if that doesn't exist, right? If that beach doesn't exist 30 years from now,
What's it all for?
what's it all for?
That's an interesting point,
Right.
but I look at, like, I've got a family member, I very successful, was a salesman for a company for years that sold things that saved people's lives, and he, like, was the dude, man. Like, went to work, made a good life, owns a couple houses now, and now he just kind of, like, pitters around, like, you know, does nothing. And it's not like again, this finite resource of time is like, really, did you go from doing this job that was super meaningful to now you, like, read the paper and put your feet in the pool?
Yeah,
like,
you might be right.
That might, like, be enough for him, but I don't know. I maybe you said earlier, do something about ethos, something bigger than yourself. I don't really want to do something bigger than me. I just want to do something that's meaningful, but not because I want to be remembered.
Right.
But, like, what's the value? Like, of what we're talking about now. Like, we could be talking about, we could have a comedy show, and there's value to that. But I would rather pass something on. Like, maybe somebody heard you repeat Gary V's, and been like, you know what, that's a good thing. I'm glad I heard that, and that could change something in a positive way.
Absolutely.
For somebody.
Yeah, I don't know. I think our goals change all the time too.
That's true.
But the one thing that doesn't change is, like, the determination to get there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And to win.
Have you ever lamented or busted on yourself because you changed a goal? Like, I used to, not just to clarify my point. Like, there's been things like I own a construction company for years, and that's going to go away. And it's like, people are like, but you work so hard. And then sometimes I'm like, you're right. Like,
you're right, yeah.
But then, like,
should I have sold it? Or should I monetize it?
But I don't feel like I need to do that anymore. And, like, I did it. But, like, sometimes, like, that, or, and this is different than being fickle, the word you used a minute ago, where somebody jumps from thing to thing.
Right.
But, like, I worked so hard to do this thing, I got it, and now I'm kind of, like, done with it. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't know, because you know what's weird about me? I'm that weirdo that if, like, you go pull my high school yearbook, it said join the Marine Reserves, go to Western, get a degree in law enforcement, and then go work for this great agency that I work for now.
You are kind of a weirdo.
So like, my wife laughs.
So, like, if you want to know everything about him, you can just start reading every yearbook.
Yes, the yearbooks in Illinois, and from 99 or 2000, and so I laugh because my goal hasn't really changed, right? I just enhanced. All right, I got there. All right, so at, like, age 24, I was like, oh, I'm done. And I laughed because 6 months ago, me and my wife went back and we were looking at my yearbook and her yearbook, because, like, it was like one of her reunions or something. So we're looking, and she's like, all right, hey, let's go through your class and see what all your classmates are doing. You know, because I still know a lot of. I went to a small school, so, you know, like 70 of us in the graduating class, right? And I'm like, oh yeah, she wanted to do X, Y, and Z. Oh man, they didn't get to anywhere near that, right? You know, and I'm not trying to be an asshole, but you look at, like, some of them. I had 12 valedictorians in a class of, like, 72, right? And, like, a bunch of them went to University of Illinois and these big colleges and stuff. And, like, most of them, like, some of them didn't even graduate college. Never, you know what I mean? And so you sit and look, and you're just like, okay, hey, I figured out what I want to do. You know, that's not the right way, though. Like, there's kids that are 30 right now trying to find their way.
Sure.
But the worst thing I hate hearing is when people go, you got time. You ever hear that? A lot of people go, hey, take your time, take a gap year, do this. And I'm always like, no, because I'm not that old. I'm like early, late 30s, right? And people
now you're not.
No, yeah, right. And so I'm starting to get old. I've lived a hard life, right? And I've pushed, and I go, like, what if I had screwed around and not gone to the Marines till I was, like, out of school for a year? Then I'd have been a year behind. Then instead of taking 22, 24 credit hours and just doing 12, I'd have been 5 years at Western. Like, now all of a sudden I'm 25 trying to get that job I got when I was 21. And they think it doesn't matter, but 4 years makes a huge difference, right? And so I tell people, I'm gaining experience. Look, I got 16 years in this career field. There's guys 3 years younger than me that just got into this career like 2 years ago.
Right.
And they're like, how are you the rank you are right now? And I'm like, because I was #grinding at 21. Okay? When you were around working at the oil shop changing oil and then trying to figure out what you want to do with your life, right? So I really try to push the young kids that I mentor. I've mentored a lot of Boy Scouts. I was an Eagle Scout. I mentor a lot of Boy Scouts.
Of course he was.
People make fun of me all the time. I gotta be honest.
Of course he was.
I wouldn't be half the person I am today if it
That's a
wasn't
lot
for
of
the
work.
Boy Scouts of America.
That's
And
a
I'm
lot of
dead
work.
serious. One of the proudest things I've ever done in my life was be an Eagle Scout. And I mean that.
Very few young men achieve that.
It is a hard thing to do. And you know why? Especially in this day and age, there's less and less Eagle Scouts getting made. And you want to know why? Because cars, women, money, Instagram, social media. And I tell kids, hey, that they get into, Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts. I'm like, don't ever forget why you're in this right now. And that it's making you a better boy and a better man. And the skills you remember that you're learning today, you're going to use the rest of your life. Some of the knots I learned when I was like 8 years old, I used one of them yesterday for a very important mission in my job. I actually got a high five from my boss. He was like, I cannot believe you tied that knot and that worked for X thing. It was pretty cool. I'll tell you off camera what it was.
Yeah.
And I hadn't probably tied that knot in 9 years. Okay?
But it was in you.
Right then. It was in me. And it's not just knot tying. That laid the foundation of essentially, I tell people I've been in public service my entire life. Right? And I said this on the podcast. I'm the mayor of the town I live in. Right? People are like, wait, what? You're a mayor too? Yes, I'm duly elected by the people. Right? I was an alderman before that. I didn't really want to be the mayor, but mayor was going to retire, so I ran and somehow won. I won my caucus. In my town, we do a caucus.
I'm assuming in your town, you're probably a non-paid position.
Yeah, I think they give me like $1,000. The first couple years when I was an alderman, I didn't take the money. The first year or two I was a mayor, I just said I don't even need the money.
Sure.
They might give me like $1,000. I don't even know. But we do a caucus in our town, just like in Iowa, where everybody raises their hand and says, him, no, yes. And it's actually kind of cool. I don't think a lot of communities do that anymore.
Yeah.
I won the caucus barely, and so ended up being the only one on the ballot. Because if you win the caucus, then there's another route they can run against you. But long story short, I do all that, and I say, people are like, why are you doing it? I'm like, because this is all I've ever known is like serving other people, right? And it's a labor of love. Kind of thing. And if you're not all in on that kind of stuff, you're just not ever going to be successful at it. Because what I've found, especially with politics, is luckily the position I'm in, it's non-political. I don't have to pick a political party and all that. But I live in a very conservative community, and I make no bones about it. I'm a fiscal conservative, as conservative as they get there. And I find people they angle you, they write bad social media about you or whatever, and you're just like, hey, this is the mission we're driving. Feel free to run for mayor, and then you can drive that mission. But I'm driving this mission. We are going to affect change here. We're streamlining processes. We're saving money here. We're not spending money on that anymore. And we're going to get in the black, and we're going to be running good. And that's the leadership of that kind of thing. And so kind of got off on a tangent there.
No,
but
you're good.
I say, where did that all come from? When I was a Boy Scout, doing a couple merit badges like the community involvement merit badge and all that stuff. I remember meeting the mayor at that time and talking to aldermen, and I thought, I want to do what those guys are doing someday. And I never forgot about it. Like, they made an impact in 2 or 3 little meetings and conversations with me on merit badges when I was like 12 years old, right? And here you are 30 years later doing that. You know what I mean? And so I think that a lot of kids get older and they forget what their goals were when they were 15, 16. Like, why do you have to lose your goal?
I got an interesting comment on that. I think it's because every parent now and every school teacher and every counselor, that every's a bad word, but we are taught that being a cop is not a good thing. Being a welder is not, you need to be a dentist. You need to be the lawyer, an engineer, because we all want our kid. I don't want my kid to be the guy that's pushing shopping carts. I want my kid to be the guy that owns a grocery store.
Right.
And that's I mean, that's. I think the judge from Caddyshack said it best.
Yeah, he did.
The world's need ditch diggers too.
They do. Yes, I knew exactly where you're going.
And when I spent years of doing physical labor, and I loved it. I tell my buddies in special operations, and this is a joke, but it's not. Come to a rough framing crew or an iron worker crew of dudes in the wintertime.
Right. Yeah.
Navy SEALs, you ain't got nothing.
How about guys roofing?
In
the Midwest heat in the middle of July and August.
And I'm making a joke, kind of, but like I loved that. I did that for years. It's how I can hold a gun.
Right.
Years of doing that
Right.
stuff. But we have trained kids about 15 years ago, 12, 13, 15 years ago, somewhere in there, we presented the Illinois Department of Education on this exact topic because there was nobody to build houses. There was nobody.
Right.
There was nobody coming in.
There still isn't. We're at a lack of people in the trades, and the community colleges have gotten away from it because of lack of funding.
Yeah.
And they're not teaching kids
But
to get out there into that.
It came from the schools, though, saying,
Right.
we're going to get you set up so that you can have a technical job, a job where you're not doing anything physical.
Right.
Because it's better if you just sit still all day. And now we'll make special chairs to hold you so that you don't get spinal problem. My wife, they thought that she had like a brain condition, and it turned out she just sits too much with her arms like this because her fingers were going numb. So now she's got a desk that she can stand up
at, right?
But it's like, and not to go into a tangent on that, but I was a Boy Scout. I have a problem with, not a problem. I don't have a problem. I don't enjoy regimented things.
Yeah.
Where I have to like show up and do things. Like I don't want to go tonight.
Right.
So anyway, I have some great memories from it. But I remember reading once if you take all the presidents in the United States, there's some similarities in them.
Right.
One of those similarities that, and of course Boy Scouts weren't around forever, but there is many U.S. presidents that were Eagle Scouts.
Yeah. Baden Powell, I think was his name, was the founder of the Boy Scouts, and then starting with the Kennedy Eisenhower years and moving up, almost all of them were Eagle Scouts.
Yeah,
and I think even Bill, or maybe Bill Clinton was the first one not to be, or something like that.
Interesting.
The Bushes and all that, and again, it's because you built at a young age that dedication of there was meetings I didn't want to go to.
Sure.
There was camp outs I didn't want to go. And it was like, hey, you do this because you got to.
And that process of the badges.
Right.
And going through the work to do it.
And staying motivated. My brother got right there, was right below Eagle. And he just,
Scout?
He was a Life Scout, correct, yep. And he just didn't quite, didn't want to miss it. And I think to this day, he often says, that's what I was a regret. But you can't go back and do it when you're 30.
I have tons of regrets as an adult. And I just recently began kind of like musing and mulling on, of course, we know we can't go back like you just said, so it's a waste of energy, those regrets. But then I started to think about we're on the sum total of all the experiences, good, bad, right, and wrong.
Right.
I don't have this polished background like you where everything I did turned to gold, where when I take a dump.
If I shit gold nuggets, please fish a few out for me.
But those good choices, bad choices, all of them, I don't believe that I'd be sitting here with you right now had I barely graduated from high school, let alone ever went to college. So I think if I was forced into that, if I had domineering parents that said you're going to college and that's just the end of it, I don't know what that would look like.
If they forced you, you might not have put yourself into it anyway, and you'd have failed at it. Right. So I think we are our experiences.
Yeah.
Right. And you can capitalize on those, or you can allow them to dissipate.
Yeah.
And a lot of people allow experiences to dissipate. And I don't. I try to capitalize on them and say, okay, you just did that. That's pretty badass. You need to replicate that. Or you need to teach other people that, right? Which is a lot of what this industry is, especially with firearms training.
That's what we're doing right here.
It is what it's trying. That's what we're trying to do. And with firearms training, I often talk to people and they're like, well, who taught you how to shoot? I'm like 100 different people, right? And some of them were good, some of them weren't as good, but I picked up something from all of them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And, I love getting on Instagram and I watch
just
some of the videos.
Just like leaders, some of it might be I'm not doing that.
Absolutely. I'm like, okay, that's really dumb.
Right.
I took a class here. I took some class. It was with Fulcrum Tactical or something here. They brought all these world-class instructors in. They brought this guy in from Special Forces, from a former Special Forces guy from the West Coast. And he comes in. He had a big name. You could Google him. It was like, oh, yeah. So we go to this class, and literally he's like, all right, everybody load your rifles up. It's 3 minutes on the range, right? And we go on the range, and there's these steel targets he's got set up, and we're at 5 yards, maybe even less than
with
5.
Rifles?
With rifles. And
with frangible ammo?
No.
Okay.
And so he's like, hey, all right, we're going to shoot blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, hey, me and the other guy were like, that's steel. I think that's going to there's going to be, some spar come and everything. He's like, no, it's good. I was shooting it earlier when I was out here. And I'm like, okay, cool. So I luckily wasn't in the first string. I was like standing, I stood back, and it's like, dude, 4, 5, 6 guys get hit. And it was like,
you can die.
I thought you were the badass. Right? And I watched it, and I'm like, no, he ended up later teaching us some okay tactics on a few things, but I was like, what? He was one of them guys that was just like, let's blow 100 rounds as fast as we can, and then we're going to blow another 100 as fast as we can.
Later.
Hey, and I laugh because I'm like, well, okay, did we really learn anything? I sometimes learn more shooting less.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Just practicing the techniques.
Yeah.
Right? But to me, what's made me a better shooter is being an instructor and teaching it and being part of the craft. I'm an instructor for my agency. I love teaching new cadets, recruits. Like, I like teaching civilians and
you have
other
to have
cops.
a body of knowledge to draw on.
Right. Yeah. You can't I became a cop this week and then I went to range officer school and now all of a sudden I'm teaching. It's
people
like,
do though.
A lot of people do, especially in this industry. We saw it in the concealed carry industry in Illinois. There's 100,000 concealed carry instructors and there's only like 2,000 that are actually registered with the state of Illinois Department of Public Financial and Professional Regulations to be firearms instructors, right? That actually meet the qualifications. So you're like, well, wait a second, you're not even licensed to teach that in Illinois. So just because they gave you a concealed carry instructor's license doesn't mean you should be making money doing it, right? You have the background to actually be doing it.
Right. And
so I don't know. To me, firearms instructors, there's some guys that came from nowhere and they're really good shooters and they're great instructors. There's some that have 25 years of military and they're horrible instructors. And you know who some of those guys are, right? So there's that happy medium in between. To me, it's keeping the students' attention and really getting them to learn so they walk away and go, thank you, I'm better today having spent that time with you.
Yeah, did you pass on the information that you needed to get?
It's not about the qual.
Yeah.
It's not about, all right, we're going to do this drill and okay, you did okay, so let's move on. It's like, I love it when people email me like 2 weeks later, 2 months later, 6 months later, or they call and they go, I was out on the range today and it hit me, a couple of things you taught me, and I remembered, okay, I'm not doing the thumbs right, I'm not gripping properly, I didn't front sight, different, whatever it is, just basic fundamentals. Like, it's all about the fundamentals at the end of the day, right? That's this industry. I watch so much of us getting away from the fundamentals. Do you notice that?
What's interesting is that I've watched, and this is funny, we just talked about this the other day with somebody else, like, right here, I brought this up, so you guys that will listen to us all the time, you probably should own this. This is one of my favorite books, and Bill Jordan was a famous lawman. He got involved in lots of shootouts. Smith & Wesson made that gun because of him, which is like famous, I think that's a K frame or N frame 357. He could draw and hit a small target in 0.26 seconds.
From the hit.
Yeah.
From the hit.
Yeah. Boom! and so, what the hell are you going to teach me that he didn't already figure out?
Right.
Semi-autos are different. There was no Glocks then. There was no night sights. So there's advances and stuff. But it's like guys kept come up with so much stuff. And I was talking to Jeff Gonzales. And I think he's been in business for 18 years teaching across the country and Navy SEAL and been there, done that. And this is something that we were both commenting on, that it's like Glocks, for a perfect example. 5 years ago, remember everybody chopped their Glock into Swiss cheese?
Oh, and started putting new triggers and everything.
And like chopping the slide, like little holes and shit everywhere.
There's all these aftermarket slides. I'm like, wait, is it a Glock? I don't even know if it's a Glock.
Like, I'm going to cut a triangular hole. And I never did that, but I remember I watched and there's a bunch of companies that develop this. And you got to chop the hell out of it because for some reason it's better. Yeah. And now people are in like Cerakote everything. And there's nothing wrong with like making flashy shit, but now it's like, and revolvers were stupid. Right. But now even big companies are talking about revolvers, like a J-frame. That's dumb. And these guys like this, or Jim Cirillo. Yeah.
Jerry Muselik. These guys like, hey, they kind of got it figured out. Yeah. Right. I think back my Marine Corps days. You're talking in the late '90s, early 2000s, and we were still doing Weaver and shit. Yeah. Right. And you're like, okay. I mean, that's how I was first taught. Was this like, advanced Weaver. I was doing the Weaver, and we all know that some people still shoot like that, and I've seen guys that are decent shooters that way, but we know it's not physiologically the best way to shoot, right? The science is behind it.
That's a perfect example though of like a skill set, somebody seeing it and going, that's the way.
Yeah.
And then everybody kind of followed.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's actually like a true story that Weaver had a physical abnormality from an injury that's why he shot like that. Yeah, there's a whole story about it.
And they don't realize they're usually making a pendulum and shooting off of a pendulum and not controlling the weapon. And so I'd like to point that out in my classes. I'm like, hey, I can stand in the isosceles, or I can stand here all day long and shoot one round at a time and get good hits. That's how they used to target shoot in the 50s, 60s, 70s, I go, but there's a lot of tactical reasons you shouldn't shoot like that, right? And so once you explain to people, like, okay, I guess that makes sense, right? So you just have to show them, and you have to show them why. And I like to give them the science behind why.
Sure.
Now, 20 years ago, we didn't have a lot of the science in our industry, right? The war has been good for us. Yeah. I say that, I don't like that we're in war.
With data gathering,
the equipment, the weapons, all the stuff, the ammunition. Think of, 20 years ago, 9 mil. Oh, gas, 9 mil. Why would you shoot 9 mil in a hand? It was like, you can't shoot that self-defense.
It doesn't end in 4, or doesn't start with a 4.
Yeah. It was like, when I first became a cop, they're like, you don't carry a 45, at minimum a 40.
That's funny. I remember even 10 years ago, all my copper buddies all still were carrying 1911s.
Yeah.
Like the guys that were more on the badass side of things.
Right. They all got their Wilson combat.
Yeah, guys that were on the SWAT teams and stuff, they all shot, and they had a 10-round extended mag, and they were...
Yep, that's 100%. And now then the FBI spends 3 years researching 9mm bullets. They changed the 9mm, and now you see this huge wave going across the country of every department starting to go to 9mm. And you know what? I kind of agree with it. I teach a lot of females, and we shoot a 40 in my agency, a Glock 40, the 22, and I have literally taken females with very little, pistol shooting experience whatsoever. You have them stand at the 5-yard line, just shoot me as tight a group as you can, no time, right? Just boom, boom, shoot me 10 rounds, as tight a group as you can do. Doop, doop, doop. They shoot them, you hand them a 9mm Glock, shoot the same group, right? And it goes from here to here. And so I watch it with my own eyes, and I say, why wouldn't I want her to have a 9mm?
Right.
You know what I mean? Let's try to cut the air down, right? So I see it a lot. It doesn't make a huge difference, but it can in someone that doesn't know how to control a weapon.
Oh, hell yeah.
Right? My wife's a great example. Not a great shot.
And you get more ammo on board, longer life for the weapon.
Absolutely.
Ammo's cheaper.
Absolutely. It's all that stuff.
Yeah.
So, and maybe partially that's why the FBI went to it. Who knows?
Well, back to that point you were making, that broader point. Did you see these ups and downs? Like I remember reading something from what's his name? From out on the West Coast.
There's a bunch of them.
Trainer that went to jail.
Oh, was he a SEAL?
No, he was a cop. Went to jail for insurance fraud.
Oh, I don't know.
He still writes a huge, well-published, weekly thing. Anyway, he talked 10 years ago about red dots on pistols.
Oh,
he said, he goes I foresee in the near future these will be so normal. People are like, you're an idiot.
Yeah.
And
everybody's running an RMR on their gun now.
The point you made though was the fundamentals, and that's kind of how we developed as a business. That's really all we teach. Make the holes appear, and I don't care if you're standing on your head or whatever.
Right.
Of course, there's a nice way of giving somebody framework where they're probably going to be successful. But no, if you're not like this, then you can't do it. But this works better.
Yeah.
No, you got to be like this. But that works better for me. Some people get super wrapped around the axle on that.
No, they do.
I'll go to classes. I go to 4 or 5 a year, and I'm not the greatest, but I got shot enough where I can figure it out. So a lot of times I go because I want to see how's he teach.
Right.
What kind of drills does he use that maybe are different or better?
And then you pick that up. Yeah. That's why I like to still go to classes. Yeah. Absolutely.
But I'll hear guys, they'll come up and be like, dude, drop your right shoulder back a little bit. And I was at a class recently. Here's my feet. He comes up and kicks my foot like this, like literally like this. I go, all right. And he's like, now shoot. And I'm shooting and like this.
So it changed. Did it change the center balance? Is that what?
No.
What is this bullshit here? What
Here's
you got?
my left foot, and I like this guy. And if he sees this, he'll know I'm talking about it. So don't get mad. But I shoot. You guys can't see, but I'll shoot a group like this, rapid fire. I can dump a magazine at 10 yards and make a fist-sized group. Like, don't tell me this.
Yeah, that. I thought you were going to tell me it made a big difference. I was like,
well, that's what he was in. So I started messing around, throwing shots. I think I moved my foot funny and threw some shots and put it back and shot back on target. Sorry. And he's like, see? And I'm like, are you just with me, like coming up with, but he wasn't, because I watched him do it to a few other people. So then it's like,
but position to me isn't nearly as important. Let's be honest. How often do you get in a gunfight and it's this?
Well, you talked today about what happened the other day. Your guys were driving and they had carbines on their front seat because they weren't sure if they were going to have to shoot through their windows.
Yeah.
Now you're like this.
Yeah. What are we doing? This isn't even normal. I'm just driving at 80 mile an hour. How do you control a rifle?
Yeah. Now you're worried about busted glass coming back at your face.
Yeah. It's all that stuff.
I can't even imagine shooting inside of a vehicle, an AR, without ear pro on.
There is an outstanding video of an Oklahoma State trooper.
Oh, I know this.
Have you seen that video? Yeah. If I could meet this dude.
Laid over the...
Oh, man. He's chasing that murder. That guy had murdered a few people. He's got it, and he is just launching mag. He even does a reload.
While he's hauling ass.
I'm like, he had a 5 o'clock shadow. And I was like, this, I want to meet. Yes, I was like, I want to meet this guy.
Did you see that one, Drew?
I have shown this video to other guys I work with. I'm like, you need to watch this video because this dude knew what the hell he was doing.
Yeah.
And I know he had never practiced shooting an M4 through his windshield, but he shot a few rounds, got the hole, punched a hole, set that barrel up there, and it was kicking, but he'd slow down, speed up,
while driving. I think he was in an SUV.
Yeah, an SUV or a car, and their Oklahoma State Patrol must have about 4 or 5 cameras in their car, because while you're watching the one on his face, there's like 4 other cameras in the car, plus the camera of the helicopter following the guy.
Yeah.
And you're seeing this whole thing, and I'm like, it looks like a movie.
It does.
Right? And if you haven't watched it, go find it. Oklahoma State Trooper, like 1.5 years, 2 years ago. Total badass. Yeah. He didn't take my class. I wish I could take credit for it, but that was pretty cool.
By the way, he's one of my students. But that to your point, that's not your perfect weight forward fighting stance.
Right. Yeah,
he's hauling ass. He's probably had some cool Waylon Jennings blaring on the radio.
He actually did have some music on, and you're just like a cool comfort talking on the radio, and that dude's thinking, all right, hey, I got XYZ, this is a use of force, I can't let this guy get away, this guy just murdered 3-4 people, right? This has got to end.
He's stopping.
This has got to end tonight, right now.
I think the guy's car might have been faster than his, and that's why.
Yeah, I think that's what was going on, and then eventually he disables that guy's car enough, and then the dude he was shooting at was smart. What do most people do? They get out of the car and they shoot from, right at their driver's door. This guy got in front of his pickup truck or whatever vehicle he was driving and created distance, right? And that's another thing we always like to teach people is like, hey, don't fight up in your door jamb, right? 3, 4, 5 feet off, play the angles. This guy, this adversary of his, was definitely playing the game. Yeah. He knew the game, and he was against a guy that could have easily won that day, and he didn't let him win, and that's all at the end of the day. It's all that matters.
Which, the big picture is, put the sight or the dot on the target and don't fixate on I have to stand a perfect certain way.
Moral of the story.
Yeah.
Right? Where the front sight is, I have this thing when we do our concealed carry qual. People have you ever watched them just get so amped up? Like they're cool cucumbers, the whole class. And it's like, okay, we're going live for the qual. And you can just see them like, and it's like, whoa, chill out. Nobody's bleeding, nobody's dying. Okay, I'm asking you. It is good for them. I'm asking you to shoot an NRA B-27 target. Let's power down for a minute, okay?
Which is basically like
it's pretty big. And so you're like, all you gotta do is hit in the black, buddy. Okay. And so inevitably they'll shoot a decent group and they'll be around, down here, in the hip or something. So I'll go down to score and I'll go, hey, what's with this little guy? And they're like, I don't know. And I was like, I do. That's where your front sight was when you pulled the trigger. Right? And they're always like, it's not really words of wisdom. I'm just telling you, that's where your front sight was when you pulled the trigger. Simple right? Fact. It's just a fact. Like, it's the only thing that doesn't
No, it wasn't. It was on the target.
Yeah, right. No, it wasn't. No, your bullets don't lie. They're the only thing that tell the truth 100% of the time.
And if your gun's that jacked up, then you need to go buy a new one. Which is usually not the case.
Do you have the people show up? I had a guy... I just taught, we teach for Shield Sports, and we had a guy that showed up, and he had a brand new high point in the box. I see the high point, it's like blue and white or something. Here we go. Okay. I'm not big on any, you shoot what you want to shoot. Yeah. I don't preach, we don't preach guns at Ethos. We're like, hey, if you want to shoot a Glock, you want to shoot a SIG, whatever you want to do, we'll make it work, right? Get people coming with the judges, and all this stuff. But the high point is like the one where I kind of draw the line and I'm like, hey, this isn't going to work. But it was brand new. I'm like, okay, so let's oil it up because it's going to come dry. And we had to cut the tag off of it. The guy had never shot it, right? I was just curious if you run into that a lot. I don't know. I get it occasionally. No, because some of your classes are like the big world shooters and these guys, most of the guys.
We communicate with people before class. And our CCW class is not a marksmanship course.
Right.
So in our state anyway, we go over it, of course, by state law. And I probably, more than most people, we usually shoot like 300-400 rounds in our Illinois CCW class. But if somebody's got those kinds of issues, like, hey, you're going to come, like if you want me to give you this certification, you're going to come spend 8 hours doing a little basic class prior. I did an instructor development course like 10 years ago. Dude shows up. There was like 50 dudes there, 30 dudes, and he had 2 high points. And he was this like
running dual high points,
6'4",
$120 a piece
guy. I think he was from like Georgia, and I started laughing, and he looked at me, and I'm like, like that's funny, man. And he's like, what? And I'm like, high points. Like, I thought like he was just making a joke. Like, he showed up to this instructor class with the cheapest piece of shit guns money can buy.
Right.
And then he looks at me like, what are you making? Like, and I realized, oh shit, he's serious.
Yeah.
That's what he carries. And
backtrack.
Yeah. And I'm like, oh, like I just thought like, and he's like, why would that be a joke? And I realized like, how are you teaching people this? Like, if you don't know why that would be funny, and he couldn't shoot for shit. And I don't remember like how you have to get the magazines.
Yeah, there's some weird deal with the mags.
And I'm not like a snob, but I'm just like, this is a guy that's off somewhere. He worked at like a big gun store or something, and like that's the guy.
Well, because they sell a shit ton of them because they're $125 a piece.
But he was introducing people to like their first.
Good luck getting them to shoot 50 rounds without some kind of major malfunction, anyway.
Hey, you said something earlier. Total sidetrack. You said something earlier before we began that you and your wife in the recent years cut all negative people out of your life. What's that?
So I just, about a year and a half ago, you start to realize like as you get successful at things, whether it's your career, your family, whatever, have you ever noticed people start to drag you down? Right? Or
if you let them, yeah.
If you let them, or they just start to become negative cells, cancer cells in your life where they're constantly giving you negative feedback, or they're saying, well, I don't know why you didn't come with us to the pool this weekend. Why are you guys always working? Why are you doing this? And so we made a commitment to ourselves to just cut the fat.
It's my life. I will live it.
It's my life. I'll live it. If you don't support me, you don't have to support me 100%.
Right.
But if you don't support me in the 90s, you don't exist. And that sounds bad, but it's like, I'm going to stop communicating with you, right? We're not going to send Christmas cards. It's not that I don't like you, but the older I've gotten, the less time I have for people that don't have time for me. Does that make sense?
100%.
It's like, I think when I was in my 20s, even early 30s, I had 1,000 friends.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And it's like text messages all day long, phone calls all day long. And then you realize, like,
what's the profit in all of it?
What is the profit?
Yeah, what's the fruit?
And I'm not trying to be an asshole. I'm not trying to be that, like, you owe me. It's like, no, it's like...
But how is it making us better?
How is it making me better? You start realizing, like, you got high school friends that are still smoking weed and working dead-end jobs, and they you see them once every few months, like out at dinner or something, and then they come over and make some smart ass comment about you being a cop, and you're like, why do I send that guy a birthday text every year?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so, and
you're no longer walking the same path.
Yeah, we're not on the same path.
You're actually having, like, if here's your path, and here's his, you have to, like, get off yours, travel all the way over here.
Yeah, you're causing me to take detours off the interstate, and I'm a windshield, not a rear view mirror guy. I say that to people probably once a day. I say that to somebody. I go, hey, brother, you're living in the rear view mirror. You've got to get on the windshield. So why was I spending so much time, unbeknownst to me, living shit in the rearview mirror?
So what you're talking about is exactly what I mentioned earlier about, like, upset. Like, goals was one way of looking at it, but that's another thing. Like, I invested all this energy in these friends.
Yeah.
Or in this job. Or in this person. Or in this house.
Right.
And now it's time to go. And, like, but I can't, you know, like, but those, like, I've known him since we were 10. Doesn't mean I have to, like, send him a I hate you.
No.
I'm just not going to let you suck me.
You're sucking positive energy away from me. And so the older I've gotten, the more I realized how valuable positivity is. I think it keeps you healthy. I think it supports when someone says, hey, job today.
Thanks, man.
You know what I mean?
That.
But you know what I'm saying? Like, that...
Not contrived, though.
Not contrived. Like, they mean it.
Yeah.
Like, that you're like, that feels good. It makes you want to walk to the next guy and do the same thing.
Yes.
And I think for a lot of years, I kind of walked around sometimes and I was like, okay, that guy is being negative, and I didn't want to be negative, but
all of a sudden you're some
drew you in. And, you know, I spent almost 8 years on a full-time SWAT team, and I call us the Great Whites, right? Because we were, you know, we're like similar to, you know, we're a full-time team, so every day you see the same, like, 15 guys, right? So we were like sharks, just doing the Great White Circle, waiting for the little seal to come through. So the littlest of weakness that anyone showed in the group, we were like, rock, right? And it was that actually in that environment, that's what makes SEAL Team 6 and Delta and your MARSOCs and your Tier 1 units.
For
that's
those
what
of
makes
you guys
great.
that don't know, we don't use the term that he just used for either of those units.
Yeah, sorry, whatever. The SEALs, the DevGru, whatever it is. DevGru. So when that's what makes those guys great, but then I think that started to metastasize in our life where I found myself going, hey, on little stupid stuff of other people, and then they start doing it to you, and you're like, why am I being a great white shark to people that didn't ask to be a great white shark? Right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think I see some military guys, they get out of the military, and that's the life they lived for 15, 12, 20 years, and they get out and they're like, why isn't everybody like doing, civilians are so dumb, and you know what I mean? And cops do it, where they're like, oh, right? They're like, that guy didn't even know, and he doesn't understand, and why is he driving 100 mile an hour? I'm writing him a ticket. And I find that that's a bigger picture. So when we talk about this, like cutting the fat, trimming the negativity, to me it's like a holistic approach to all of it, right? And so I've made this...
It no longer serves me. Which, that can definitely become like we talked about somebody earlier that everything about this person does it serve me?
Right.
And so, like, I think you can I could say, okay, he can't help me get my goals, so
right.
That's not what
that's not what we're saying. I don't think that's what you meant, and definitely.
No, I just want to make sure they understand.
Yeah, I want everyone to understand. It's not what I mean. Like, oh, he's not providing me value. It's not really that. It's more like that person brings negativity into my life, right? Me being the mayor of my small town, I sometimes even like family members.
Does the people in your town know that you talk like you do, say the F word and stuff?
Yeah, they don't care.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I'm very direct.
Okay.
Even sometimes I on occasion will throw out a cuss word in the city council meeting occasionally. I think people like authenticity in 2019.
I'm a big fan.
There's a lot of people that don't.
That's why our president
They're not
got
authentic.
elected.
Absolutely it is. That's why Donald Trump's where he is. So I don't try to hide it. I'll drop an F-bomb occasionally if it needs to. If it has value to the conversation, right? So there have been things, little dumb things that you make decisions on in the Parks and Rec program, or stuff.
Somebody just gets,
and like even family members are roasting me on like social media, my wife will go, because I don't have like Facebook and stuff. Like we have it for the company, but I'm not like scrolling.
Posting pictures of you.
No, I don't have like a personal page
At
or
the
anything.
park today.
Yeah, so my wife is kind of she's like, oh, hey, your cousin said X about you today. And I'm like, I don't care. She's like, you need to talk to her. You know, we got Thanksgiving next week. And I'm like, yeah, I don't give a shit. I don't care. You just brought up negativity into my life.
That is my exact response, too.
Right? I'm like, I don't care. We could do this.
Wash over.
Yeah, let it wash. We could do this podcast, and there could be someone who's like, you guys are douchebags. And I'll be like, I'm going to give them the emoji thumbs up. Right? With the fist pump.
It's about
and
the
the
only
American
time
flag.
that passive aggression is merited in my world.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, cool. All right. Hey, dude, guess what? All good. I'm happy for you. I think you feel good that you just trolled us. You know what I mean? I hope, like, my approach to coming and doing this podcast was to have, like, big world conversation. Like, we can sit here and talk guns all day.
Sure.
Who the hell are we?
Yeah.
Right? So to me, I
I don't
thought...
know who you are, but
Yeah, you're kind of a big deal. But I thought, like, in my head was, let's talk about some big world stuff that makes you successful, makes me successful at what I do. We're not millionaires. We're not running Fortune 500 companies, but we're doing things that are making impacts in people's lives.
Yeah, man.
And that's what this is all about. You said something earlier before the podcast on how even if you taught 30 classes a year, for 30 years, you're only going to teach 5,000 students. I'd never heard anyone say it that way.
Yeah. That was Dave Harrington. That was another Dave Harrington, yeah.
And you sit and you go, you can only touch 5,000 people with that? So
I mean, which is still a huge...
It's still a huge number.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's not massive. And you think, I should be able to touch more lives than that. If I hope, part of doing the podcast, we can reach people that'll never take my class or your class. They live in Seattle, Washington, and they're
Canada,
like,
Brazil.
Canada, whatever. And they're going, hey, I'm learning from these two. And they're going to remember that something we said, and they're going to hate 30 other things we said. But to me, that's the bigger picture of the whole thing, you know? And that's what I think more people should use social media for, and their websites and their reach out in that realm, instead of just the constant negative and the political bullshit and all the stuff that you see today.
It's gotten really bad.
It's like, it's over the top. And it's easy for us to sit here and go, oh, we don't want to do that. I mean, I agree with one side of the fence. Other people agree with the other side. There's a lot of people in the middle, right? But today, I just look at it and I go, I can't even watch the news and get a story.
I don't watch it. After Drew and I, you know this, we were both involved heavily in politics.
Yeah.
In the last 5 years, unless like you sent me like, hey man, check out this article, I don't turn the news on. And it's interesting, like my dad's like, you don't know what's going on. I know exactly what's going on.
Yeah.
I know what I need to know.
Right.
And like, it's not like, because somebody will tell me. Like, if there's an earthquake in Japan, me knowing it 38 seconds after the quake starts does not affect. I can't help. I can't. So that's like it's a sickness almost that we have to.
It's the news cycle is so ferocious now, right? That we don't even let
Weather Channel.
We don't let it develop, right? Like I have to, in my line of work, being a cop, in the winters in Illinois, they drive the mission, right? Like, I get PTSD from snowstorms, right? Like, I go, they're horrible because people don't, to this day, they can't figure out you can't drive 80 in a blizzard, right? So 3-4 days out, you're getting the weather. Oh, looks like 6-8 inches on Saturday. Oh my God.
You guys see what's coming, right?
And so we start firing out emails. Don't give any more days off, this, that, right? You start doing all this stuff. And then as it gets closer, and you're like, wait a second. We're going to get like a dusting for an hour. And it's like, you didn't even, they went full mega on this like blizzard. And it's like we're not even going to get like an inch. And the winds aren't blowing. There's going to be no ice. And it'll be 43 hours after it snows. And you're like, how did it come like 8 hours ago? You guys were literally telling people to batten down the hatches. You've experienced it up here.
It's annoying.
Right? And I'm like, why are you trying to own it 6 days out, 5 days out? Like, you clearly can't predict it. So quit putting people on like high alert. They're canceling school and shit. And then the next day you're like, it didn't even snow. Right? And you're like, I mean, literally my school, our local school has to go to school to like second week of June because we've canceled so many days this year. I'm like, somebody, my daughter was home. I'm like, we're like out. I went out for a jog on one of the school canceled days. I'm like, what are we doing?
In sandals.
Yeah, right. I'm like, what are we doing?
I think it's exactly what you were just saying about like being positive, and then it breeds more.
Yes.
That's fear. Fear
Right.
begets more fear.
Right.
Positivity or negativity beget more of the same.
Right.
We feed into that.
Really bought into it, and you buy into it. I watch what you put out on social media. The things you post, they're positive, right? You don't ever post like you put these very deep quotes sometimes under your pictures, and I enjoy that. I stop. I actually stop on your stuff when you're scrolling through, and I'm like, "Ooh, what we got here? What's Mickey got?" And I sit and read it because it's usually a well thought through conversation, and I think about that, and I go, I hope somebody reads that like I did and goes, yeah, you know what? That makes a lot of sense.
Maybe 1 in 1,000.
1 in 1,000 goes, hey, that was pretty cool. I appreciate that, or that means something, and that's what I think more people should be using social media for.
It's something interesting about that, real quick. People ask me sometimes, I hope folks don't think I got it all figured out, because most of the time, me typing that stuff is me personally going, hey, this makes sense. Like, this is me personally
What do you guys think?
Yeah, it's me personally working through some thought idea and, saying, like, positivity is a big one, man. Like, without it aligning with actions, though, it's meaningless.
Yeah, it's meaningless. So that's why when you initially asked me about this getting positive in your life, I cut whole groups of people out of my phone.
Action.
I took action. I'm blocking emails. That person sends me negative emails. That I don't get those emails. I don't even get them. Right?
And like, did they try to get a hold of you and be like, hey, what's going on?
I wouldn't know. I don't get them. I don't care. Like, that's the beauty. You guys know you can go into your phone and you can literally put block on somebody, and they're writing you like asshole text messages, like, hey, I don't know why you did this, and you're just not getting them, and they don't know that. Do you know how much more pissed off they get?
And the world goes on.
You don't get that, and so I really do believe that there's this system of the world circling, like you just said, and that person that's like just a complete dick to people for a lot of years, and then it's like all of a sudden some catastrophe happens to them, and you're like, they kind of had that coming, right? The earth loves to spin and smack somebody in the ass when they're looking forward.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so part of me trying to be positive, I find myself, in my job, I stop cars, right? I will stop people, and they'll say, I go, you know how fast you were driving? And they're like, yeah, you know what? I was doing 90 mile an hour. I don't know what the hell I was doing. And I'll go, thank you for being truthful. And you'll start like kind of giggling, and you see them laugh, and you're like, you walk back to your car, like, I think I'm gonna write them a warning. Like, they owned it.
Right.
You know what I mean? They were just like, you got me. I shouldn't have been doing that. And
rather than you
know what you get. I was not. This guy passed me. You get the arguments. You get also it's like, no, see, I don't stop you unless I'm 100%
sure.
Right? Like, if I'm like, I'm not sure, then I just don't stop you.
That's usually when he takes out his little billy club and goes, by the way, your tail light's out.
So, but it's amazing. You get somebody driving 120 mile an hour. And they know, they're like, they hit the brakes so hard the bumper scrapes on the interstate. And then you pull out after them and you stop. You know why I stopped? You're like, no, I don't. And they give you the dumbest look, and you're like, so that's where we're starting here. Okay, cool. This ain't gonna go well for you today, right? And so to me, that breeding that positivity is like, I try to I'm giving you an opportunity to tell me what the hell's going on, right? I'm being cool. So I don't have to be cool. I can just be like, give me your driver's license and stay in the car, right? But you're being cool, and so you breed that positivity. And you know what? Sometimes I walk up and I hand somebody a warning for whatever it is. And I go, was this a positive interaction today with law enforcement? And they'll go, you know what it was? And I go, thank you very much. I walk back to my car. And then they pull away and they're like, that was a little weird. You know what I mean? Because they're expecting you to walk up there and be like, hey,
That's funny.
Now, the 15 year ago cop, JW, didn't do that. You know what I mean?
Keep your hands on the wheel.
Right. But as you get older, you have more perspective, more positivity, and you say, hey, you know what? Charitable to the inadvertent violator, I like to say.
Charitable to the
the inadvertent violator.
Yeah. I got pulled over recently.
Hey, Mick, can we have an intermission?
Of course.
So, Mickey, what was it you got pulled over?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I got pulled over recently it's aggravating because I travel 30,000 miles a year
Right.
in my truck. And I always, until now, I'm like the guy, like I set the cruise in or around the speed limit.
Right.
And, I'm like, I have found that even driving, like, unless you're going to drive really fast, you don't get there.
You don't get there any faster.
Yeah.
No.
But it's all said and done. You still got to stop for fuel. You burn, like in my
Right.
truck, I burn more gas. Anyway, there was a spot where I was at, and I've been, same thing on the cruise. I haven't had a ticket in decades. And, there's a bunch of semis just jamming the road up. So finally, I'm like, I'm going to get past them. I see a spot, and they're like going like 20 under the speed limit.
Right.
I'm like, I can get past
the convoy.
And my truck, the hill, I got some horsepower. Next thing you know, I'm going fast. Dude pulls me over, and I'm not going to give him an attitude or anything. My truck is jammed full of weapons. And I mean, nothing like laying out.
Yeah.
But my hands are up here on the side of a freeway, and he's looking through the windows and asked me what I was doing and where I was going.
Out of state plate.
Yeah, and I'm like, I'm talking, telling him, what's up, and going to Florida for this class, and he's like, all right, man. I thought, oh, it's cool. This guy's gonna be cool. I told him I screwed up, got on the gas, and truck accelerated, and you got me. Comes back and nails me with a stack of shit, man. Yeah, and I'm like, and he's like, have a good day, and I looked at him just like whatever, my wife's like, you have sped plenty of times and not got a ticket.
Yeah, you're just paying the sins. For all
exactly, and I get it. But
it's a penny a stop.
Yeah, I immediately was like, I know what I was doing. I saw my speedometer. But anyway, in that state, I am now considered a super speeder.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. All right, noted.
It cost me $200
Whoa.
in addition to the ticket.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Anyway. So I don't know. We covered a ton of ground when we had to just up a couple of memory cards in the cameras here, but takeaways for me are hard work, being positive. Mm-hmm. But to me, positivity has to be coupled with some kind of goal, because you can be positive. I got a family member that's always positive, but doesn't really have anything
there's
going
fake
on.
Positivity behind that too, right? Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think even this person's positive, but there's nothing there's no thrust anywhere.
Right.
Yeah. Always scraping by.
No, you got to turn the turbocharger on every once in a while.
Yeah.
100% on that. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
No, this has been good. I appreciate it. I think we've had a good talk, and
yeah, man,
love to do it again sometime.
Yeah, for sure. Kind of takeaways, parting words. If the people that are listening or watching never see or hear your voice again, how would you be remembered this very day?
# grinding.
Grinding.
I like to use that.
Makes me think of some dirty, perverted stuff, man.
Some guys recently at work made a T-shirt for us at work for a pull or plunge or something we were doing, and they showed the shirts to me. They're like, "Hey, boss, check out the shirts," and they turned around and it had grinding on the back, and I was like, "I'm making an impact."
All right.
Right?
Yeah, man.
You know what I mean? So to me, I have that in my frontal lobe right now. So
Great.
And just doing the right thing even when it's hard to do. Right?
Ethos.
I'll leave it with this story. I have our good friend Rat, Trevino, took some classes with him. He said something to me, because I'd done it my whole life. You ever walk out into a grocery store and there's a cart hanging out, sitting next to somebody's car because some asshole didn't take the 2 seconds to wheel it in or put it in his cart? To me, that's the definition of doing the hard right over the easy wrong.
Grabbing it, putting it away.
And I'm that guy, even when it's -10, that goes and puts the cart away and then grabs the other dick's cart that he let, hit the Lexus in the parking lot, right? To me, if more people in the world took that 5 seconds to do that, they don't realize how the world would come around and help them.
Rob told that story?
Rob told that story. Rob Trevino, one of the first classes I ever took with him, I think it was an advanced night vision class or something, and he said, I just want you guys to know I'm that guy that always grabs that grocery cart in the parking lot. And he's like, and it makes my wife mad. She's like, it's clear across the lot, don't worry about it. And he's like, no, it's got to get put away, right? And I was like, I'm always that guy too. So I don't know, I think that's cool.
So be that guy.
Be that guy, and we hope Rob makes a full recovery.
Yeah, man.
He's in tough times right now.
Yeah, it's You know what's cool about, let's just talk about him for 2 seconds. So the guy we're talking about, Rob Trevino, probably one of the baddest ass human beings alive, had a physical condition, and people started raising money. I shared it. A bunch of other people shared it.
We shared it.
And they were 6 figures.
Absolutely.
People have donated. That's a measure of a man right there.
Yeah.
Like I thought about that. I'm sitting there, and it somewhat selfishly, I'm like, I wonder if I had a physical issue, how much money would people give to me?
I'll give you $25.
You know what I'm saying though? Like it wasn't
you wonder. You're
and it wasn't like am I worth $100K? But it's the thing is, he's touched people in a way that, I mean, there were people you could scroll through. There are people that donated $1,000, $500.
Right.
And if somebody has a lot, that might not be a big deal, but $25 to some people, man, that's diapers, a tank of gas.
Adds up real quick.
Yeah.
It adds up real quick. So
it's a lot of people to get to 6 figures.
He's touched a lot of lives with his classes, the community he came from in the Army, and all that. So,
but he lives that way. He is the guy that
he is the guy. Like, he's not an Instagram hero or something. He's the real freaking deal.
I introduced him to my wife once, and she's like, "Who's that?" And I'm like, "I told you about him before." And like, I think she's read his book actually.
Yeah. And, Warrior's Path.
And she's like, "Oh, like I thought he'd be like, you know."
You're right. Yeah. He's a little Navajo Indian.
Yeah. And he's super quiet and calm and just smiles and says hello and is polite, and that's a good dude.
Yeah.
That's a good dude. I appreciate you taking the time, man.
Absolutely. Nope, it's been fun. So thanks for having me.
You guys, if you haven't wrote it down already, Ethos Tactical.
EthosTactical.com. Yep, you can follow us on Instagram and
Ethos
Tactical on Instagram, and you can find us on Facebook and all that. Really appreciate it.
If you work for an agency,
you
guys can provide training.
Yep, we can provide training. If you're interested in private security, get a hold of us, help you out. We're always looking for bodies, especially outside the state of Illinois. Can work for our company.
If you are somebody that's in that field, don't waste his time sending messages.
Yeah, don't. Yeah, if you're 22 and trying to get in, we're not really the guys on that. Not in the cultivation stage. So, but thank you
for being honest.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I'll own it.
Hey, we appreciate that you guys share your free time with us. It means a lot to us. While this is fun and enjoyable, it is work, and the lessons and the things that we're talking about, we feel are valuable because oftentimes they're learned the hard way or learned through the hard work, right?
Right.
So pass this stuff on to your friends. If you're not following us here on YouTube or whatever platform that you're listening or viewing this on, please do so. Be the guy that gets the shopping cart. Tell somebody you love them. Don't be a dickhead.
Thank you.
Visit our website, CarryTrainer.com, for information about classes held throughout the U.S., CarryTrainer apparel, and upcoming projects. You can also email us at training@CarryTrainer.com for information about setting up your own private course or speaking engagement. Training@CarryTrainer.com or CarryTrainer.com.
Yeah, you guys ready?
Yeah,
First ever one on CarryTrainer. Where do you think? Bottom left?
Wherever you want it. You put it on there.
I'm going to do it right here. I'm going to go bottom right. Actually, bottom right's always where like the signature line is.
Is
right?
it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like you ever look at a painting, right?
Oh, yeah, okay. Oh, that's a nice pen.
It's a gorgeous pen.
That's a gorgeous signature.
Boom.
Yeah, because I'd never know.